This is the last of the videos of the 2017 trip from Indiana out to Colorado and Moab. Finally got through all 220 gigabytes of video. And this shows kind of the road leading out of Moab and towards Grand Junction, Colorado, and I think it's the LaSalle National Forest there. I work for Cummins, so I saw this powered road grader thing and that front end loader, and saw that power unit on the back and started nerding out a little bit. It takes a lot of power to flatten these roads out.
This could be pretty slippery, by the way.
This was good practice for my dad, who, living in California, doesn't really experience mud very much. The most mud or wet road they usually get is, you go through 10 feet of mud and then it's dry. And there was a lot more than that on this trip. Of course, I'm trying to get good camera shots, staying real close to him, and that's a bad idea in the mud. You can see it getting flung up all over my visor on the bike. So we rode out of Moab and kind of followed the Trans-American Trail heading to the east. So a lot of these roads I'd done before back in 2014, and then some of it was just, there's a road on the GPS, let's go this way. I had a couple days left and just wanted to steadily be working our way east, since it was a long ride back to Indiana and I had to be back for work. I was out of vacation days. And of course, we're camping off the bikes, so we each have about probably 60 plus pounds of stuff on the bikes. You can see my big blue duffel bag in the back. Around the base of these trees, you can see a dark spot. There had been a fire that went through here. All those dark spots were burn areas. And it looks like, I don't know if it was intentional, there's almost no way it could be. But fortunately it didn't take off. And of course we know now, I think 2018, this whole area burned and was closed down to outside traffic. They blocked all these roads, and there was a big wildfire there because it was so dry. Somewhere in the middle western part of Colorado, I guess, the Trans-American Trail, if you're doing it backwards, climbs up on top of this plateau, and there's a long switchback road that goes up it. And of course it was still very wet from rain the day before. This is all the same day, leaving Moab. So we're climbing up this hill, and there's rocks and everything, and there were definitely some slippery spots, and it was so humid, and it wasn't really very warm, that our visors were fogging up and we couldn't really see where we were going.
I'm getting this blind. Yeah, we climbed.
You can see the drifting action in the camera.
My mirror is touching the top of my hand.
This was really good practice because, of course, riding off-road, your body position is totally different than if you're riding on-road, and we were switching back and forth between pavement and dirt. So, really good practice to stay loose on the bike. That was a good save there too, because if that bike had gone down that hill, it would have been a nightmare to get it back out. And of course, by now we're getting close to the end of the day, and getting a little bit tired on the bikes, so that makes it harder to stay loose. So this is the next day, and you can see it's still muddy and wet, and we had one of the biggest storms that I've camped in at the top of that mountain, with lightning right on top of us. It was something else. So of course, all the roads were soaked again, and this one was freshly graded. We actually caught up with the grader that was blading the road, which meant it was soft, but it was really smooth and a lot of fun until we got past him. And the scenery out there is just beautiful. Now we're headed towards Telluride on the road, and then going up Imogene Pass here.
So good, you
can see across the way is the waterfall at the end of the Telluride, I guess, canyon there. And the waterfall that comes down at Black Bear Pass, which that's how I came in one of the other videos. It shows me riding down that. I don't like heights very much, so you can see I'm taking the line that's closest to the wall whenever I can, even if it's not as smooth and more rocky. I just don't like being that close to the edge. But it sure does look cool. I mean, you get amazing views up there. And Telluride is, for anyone who hasn't been there, it's a really, really cool, picturesque area. They had an awesome bluegrass festival I accidentally ended up going to a while back. I think the town has like 5,000 people that normally live there, and there was something like 25,000 people there for that concert, or that music festival. People camping everywhere, just the whole city is a big party. There's some really cool old mining stuff in this area too. Lots of mine shafts into the hard rock, because you don't really have to shore up hard rock tunnels, so it's a little easier to deal with. But lots of stuff from the late 1800s, early 1900s. You can see all the wood planks that are down in the valley there. That's all part of old structures. And of course it's all knocked down, but a lot of the brick footings are still there, and a lot of the cast iron and steel equipment, steam engines and stuff are still there. It's really, really cool to check out. Sometimes it's hard to stop riding and get off the bike and look around, but it's definitely worth it to check out some of those ruins. We're up at 11 or 12,000 feet up the top of Imogene Pass here, and the bikes were feeling really, really tired at low RPM. It's just no oxygen in the air to burn. It would have been beautiful up here if we had sun in the valley, but even with the clouds, it's just an amazing view.
Wow.
And there was still a lot of snow drifts. I assume that they plowed this, because I don't know how that drift would have gotten blocked like that otherwise. And a lot of that runoff was still coming down the valleys. That water was really, really cold. So this is coming down the, I guess, the eastern side of Imogene Pass. And this comes out into Ouray, I think is how you say it. So we went into to Ouray and went to the brewery there and hung out and talked to a bunch of Jeep people for a while. Just really cool spot, tons of off-road people. There are a lot of Jeeps, and I think there was a Toyota FJ Cruiser gathering or something there while we were there. So you do have to be a little bit careful about other vehicles. And my dad is much less scared of the edges and drops than I am, so he'll get right up on the edge like this and look down. It does make for some pretty cool camera shots, but makes my palms sweat. So now we've gone through Ouray and we're going up. I guess I don't know what this one's called, but it goes up into the Alpine Loop area. I don't know if this is technically Engineer Pass or not yet, or if that's only after it splits off. And I think you can go between like Engineer Pass and I don't know what the other one is, Cinnamon Pass maybe. And up here the mines are actually open, and there's a lot of, I guess, smaller claims that maybe were private claims up there. They were smaller, and the entrances were never blasted, so you can actually go in them, and it's not recommended. but it's pretty cool. So this is the top of Engineer Pass. Last time I was up here, I had a flat tire. I picked up an old nail. And then this is a kind of a typical campsite. So this was where we stayed. This was the second night from Moab. And sometime around then, we realized that my dad had lost a side bag coming over Engineer Pass. We had no idea where. We know we had it when we were in Ore. And we went and looked at we took the memory card out of the GoPro and stuck it in a phone and tried to watch some of the video, and it looked like maybe we had the case at the top of Engineer Pass. So we were camping towards the bottom of Engineer before you get into Lake City. So I rode back up to the top and didn't see it. So came back down in the dark. And the next day we actually rode all the way back to almost to the beginning, over Engineer Pass and back to the beginning of the Alpine Loop. And sure enough, there was a guy with a side-by-side who had my dad's bag in the back. They'd picked it up. It was sitting on the side of the trail. And I guess they were just hoping that maybe they would find somebody who would claim it, but it wasn't obvious that they had it. I only saw it because I was standing up looking in people's vehicles as we went past. And just sheer stroke of luck there. Like, can't believe it. So we ended up going back up to the top, almost Engineer Pass, went over Cinnamon, and then took Cinnamon around to Lake City and saw these moose were really, really cool. We hung out for a little bit there, the bikes off, and took some pictures. They really didn't care that we were there.
That's awesome.
We encountered this group of women on dual sports and some big old BMW. I think that's an old F650, maybe. They were out enjoying the weather too. There were a pretty good number of people on bikes out there. And it was drying up a little bit, so much more traction on the trails, a lot less muddy. And I think these guys were on the Trans-American Trail doing it the, I guess, correct direction, and they were the only ones we saw. So then we went over Cumberland Pass, and this little trailer right here is in Tin Cup, and they have excellent cobbler. So if you're ever in Taylor Park or go over Tin Cup or Cumberland, definitely worth checking it out. So we rode around in Taylor Park a little bit, just on the ATV trails. We didn't really do any of the gnarlier stuff up in the mountains, didn't really do any of the single track. There's a lot of trails that have been closed there. They had Park Service signs up saying this trail's closed or has been obliterated, which is kind of too bad to see. And the cows are everywhere. They're kind of unpredictable with bikes around, so try to be real careful. So then we hit Timberline Trail, trying to go up over Tin Cup Pass and kind of do something more interesting. It ended up being a little too interesting for us. We made it through this boulder field, and after that decided we were going to get hurt or damage the bikes going through there. So we turned back and took the more main trails up over Tin Cup. And you see it's getting dark again. We got hit by rain and it got cold and nasty, but it's still cool views. Cool old Chevy Blazer here. Tin Cup Pass is really, really rocky. It's abusive on the bike. The 950 wasn't too bad. The BMW is not quite stiff enough to keep it from bottoming out. Dad actually had kind of a nasty fall and this knocked the wind out of him pretty good. But we kept making progress even though we were getting rained on. Just took it easy. And kind of at this point, I'm going almost too slow. It's easier to go faster on some of that stuff. And then we get to the top and it's just raining on us. The other side of Tin Cup going out of the park is much, much smoother than the side going into it. So As we got down to the bottom, we caught up with a group of 6 Earth Roamers. These are really, really expensive vehicles. I guess they're made in Aspen. They're built on F450 and Dodge Ram 4500 truck chassis, and then they've got these huge camper shells on it. They're incredible machines.
So when they go through these puddles, that twist is the frame.
Would be nice to have that kind of money.
They're so heavy that on this stuff, that's all I need.
And then they also have a conversion. This is a JK Wrangler, I think. And it's got like a pop-up camper shell thing on it. And this is also made by Earth Roamer. This was the cool one to me because it's still probably really off-road capable. But you get kind of a camper space inside. That's a pretty cool kit right there. So we went over Tin Cup, went through Buena Vista, got lunch there, and then came out on the Trans-American Trail. There's this sandy wash you go up, and sand and F800s don't really get along, so had some challenges in that wash. And then it kind of firmed up after that, and the trail was really, really fun, smooth and flowing. The problem was, after all this, it got really muddy. We ended up in the rain again, and I had pretty aggressive, at least the front tire on my bike's pretty aggressive, a Pirelli Scorpion Rally. Dad had something equivalent to like TKC 80s and just couldn't get going fast enough to keep him clear, where I could just spin the wheel in the mud like this and just keep the thing going. So it was a little bit of a challenge. Had some slippery moments, and this is the last place we camped. So after this, we went our separate ways. Dad rode back to California. I went back to Indiana, and I got lost on a rancher's land here, and almost ran out of gas before getting up to I-70. And I was running really, really late at that point. So once I found my way off of his land after getting yelled at, I just hopped on I-70 and booked it back. Really, really boring ride back, but totally worth it for the trip. And you know, always fun to be camping off the bike.